radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Don't underestimate
the power
of a single
conversation.
It could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
This is what I ask. Let me always dwell in the temple of the Lord till I bring my
Hello, everyone. Welcome to INCRadio Chatline, where we have conversations that matter. I am Erica, long time no see, and the conversation that matters today is about it's in the details. So, with us in our panel, we have new people, and I was gonna say old people, but no, regular people. Let's say that. So let's introduce someone who's joined us for the first time, if we can. All right. It's so nice because we're like an even number today. Let's go to Chase. Hi, Chase. Can you please introduce yourself? Where are you from? I'm asking you this as if I don't know you.
Yeah, my name is Chase and I'm from the UK,
Yay, there you go. But specifically where?
Wales. So,
Wales.
yeah,
So a little bit of background. Wales is
west, very west.
yes, it is in the west, and specifically Newport. So you're literally like 3 hours away from me here in
Yeah.
London, right? Mm-hmm. So for anyone who loves geography, maybe you have an idea. But for the ones that don't know, just know it's not that far. Okay, so from the UK, let's fly to the US. Yes, and let's go to, I haven't seen her in a while. Tony. But I don't know. Do you need to?
Has it been a while?
Because we already know each other. Okay.
I know. You're right. Yeah, I'm Tony. I'm here in Sterling Heights, Michigan, broadcasting live today. Excited to be here for this topic with our Europeans and my fellow USA. I want ours to sound cooler.
I know. I was like, oh, what are you trying to say? No, just kidding. Just kidding. So from Michigan, let's go to California. Hey, Lionel, what's up?
What's up? Oh, no, none of that. Hello, everyone. My name is Lionel Ornado from Montclair, California, all the way here in the West Coast. Thanks for having us.
All right, as I've mentioned the topic discussion for today, which is it's about the details, right? Or it's in the details. What do you think of first when you hear about it or when someone says that? And I'd rather have Chase tell us.
I mean, I think I pretty much agree with it. Like, most things are in the details, like in terms of the importance, the meaning, and actually like how much you can learn or understand something. I think I have a perspective of like you can look at the big picture, but the big picture is made of every little like detail. So yeah.
Okay, you kind of like give a definition of that. So according to Merriam-Webster, details. Okay, so it's an extended treatment of or attention to particular items, such as what you mentioned. It's about the little things, right? So a part of a whole, such as, and then if we're using a verb, we're being very technical right now, but it's always nice to know what we're talking about when it comes to like, the meaning, like the specific meaning of what we're talking about. So it's to report with close attention to small elements, like specifying stuff, yes, or to assign to a particular task. So, or if you want to, you can just search it on the internet and find other definitions. There you go. But thank you for introducing that to us, Chase. And when it comes to the details, for example, like when you think about it, Tony, how important are details in our lives, or like for you personally?
Well, I'll give a good example because for my job that I have right now, my position, part of it is under quality control. So everything that passes through my department, I have to make sure that I inspect every single part, because if I'm not paying attention to the details, we'll get in trouble. We'll definitely get in trouble, and you lose money that way. So it's about quality, and that's kind of what I think of when I hear that phrase, like it's in the details. A lot of it has to do about quality of stuff. Now it's debatable on where you'll apply that in different things, because detail, I think, is also kind of subjective a little bit. I don't know what Lionel and Chase think about that. I know Chase is like the detail expert.
I mean, I don't think I'm an expert, but like I don't know. I really like details because it makes things not easy, but it's you have a different perspective or a different understanding on things once you see the little things. Like that's how I see it.
Final thoughts?
For me, the details is pretty important. Like you, Tony, you're in quality. For me, my work is more on design. So I have to make sure that
Mhm.
things are designed properly, and that they, for sure, work with other things as well. So then that way, things don't unintentionally blow up, or things unintentionally don't blow up. Um, but yeah, details are pretty important because it's usually the little things that we get snagged on, especially with production.
I love how everybody is talking about their job.
I didn't even mention
Like,
mine.
I know it's more on like okay, let's relate to this. When it comes to my job, yes, attention to detail is very important, especially when it comes to like the admin stuff, because important like information can't be missed, and I guess that really matters a lot. But if I were to take the like the other side of my life, for example, I think it's truly important because I'm a person that looks in each particular detail of my life, because I guess that matters to me because it helps me reflect or self reflect in a lot of aspects. And I think it's helpful when it comes to knowing the different details compared to, I mean, okay, we're generalizing, but here's a thought, like when do details matter, because it can be something very for someone very superficial, right? But for someone else it might be important, right? So when do you think details matter or not matter to you? Wants to jump in?
I mean, everyone's talking about their jobs, so I'll talk about mine. I'm in finance at the moment, so like every single detail, like if I miss anything, it can cause a massive problem like internally. So it's really important to make sure I don't miss like even the slightest error, just because it affects everyone in the company. And yeah, I think it's quite a big thing.
And I really think that, what we do for our jobs kind of relates to how we handle other aspects of our lives, right? If we take care of these certain things, we tend to bring them over to other parts of our life. It's kind of like a transferable skills between, personal and work life, right? And as we have all mentioned, like any small details that we let by, you know, it might cause issues with us further down the line.
But
But
I'm
I
gonna
was gonna say,
I'm the
but
butt here, and the
what you
butt
guys?
the butt is coming.
But
Okay.
So for stuff like your food, let's say for your food, Chase and Lionel, are you particular about how it looks? Like if your burger is not perfectly level and stuff, and all clean sides, and the sauce is not dripping down, does that stuff, do those kind of details matter to you? And I won't say there's a right or wrong answer, because I know for some people presentation is huge, but then other people they're just like, I might eat it anyway.
it all
That's
gets
me.
mixed in the stomach anyway.
Yeah.
High five. Okay.
See, I'm like, I have like two positions, right? Because if I'm hungry and I just want food, like I'll just eat it. But like if, for example, like if it's a burger and it's really, really like off center, like cheese is pouring out everywhere, I don't like being messy. So if I'm about to eat a burger and it's in my hand and it's like all covered in cheese, it's not like I won't eat it, but it just really frustrates me. I don't know if that's everyone else. It's just I don't like getting messy. I think that's the
Well, nobody likes to be messy or get like, get messy, but we all eat like kids sometimes. Okay.
But his point though is that it's affecting the experience. I
Yeah,
guess
that's
that's where it
true.
comes from. That's what it is,
I
right?
mean, if you think about it, you're like more focused on not getting dirty instead of like enjoying
Mm.
the food. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Yeah. Fair chase. But here's the personal question. Are you good or bad attention? Like, do you have a good or like a bad? I can't English right now. Do you have good or bad attention to detail? Yes, I was able to. Finally, okay, this is how you know. I am 50-50. It depends on the situation and circumstance. I can be very good with like paying attention to details, especially when it comes to like not even like in job like in my job, but everything that I've been assigned to, I tend to like not you know how they say, this is what I keep in mind. I go from one conversation to another or like one sentence to another. Okay. So it proves me wrong right now, but um like whenever you do something, you do the best way you can, like you do the best, right? And that's when, for me, when I strive to do the best I can, I pay attention to every detail I've done, so that I'm making sure that I haven't, like made any mistakes or I've forgotten something about it. But then when it comes to bad attention, it's like when I lack sleep, for example. I mean, you can relate to it. We're still young. Sometimes we don't really sleep at all, but we're not saying it's good. It's just that there's like certain circumstances where, for example, um, you just like forget because sometimes it happens, or like bad attention to detail is when, for example, I don't know, like I'm with people that I'm comfortable with, and you're like, yeah, it's fine. Like with my family, I'm not saying that I take them for granted, right? It's more on, sometimes you just do things because like in a matter where sometimes you're rushing as well, because you know that they can help out and cover those things. Does that make sense? So you don't really pay as much attention. So for example, because Tony is like, interesting. Okay, we're talking about
Well,
food.
it was interesting what you were bringing up because I didn't think about that. I think that's why I was like, oh yeah, I guess that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because for example, like little things like preparing food, right? You're like, oh, I think Chase actually experienced that too. Uh, with us. Because
Mm.
when we cook, for example, sometimes I may forget something, but then at the end of it, because we're doing it all together, like we cover each other bases. And that's why, as much as, I try to pay attention to every detail, I forgot like to do something. And then one of my siblings did it for me, you know, it's teamwork without me telling them. I'm proud of you. It was Ariana or Ariel, I don't remember, but yes. So instead of me, like babbling a lot right now, how about you? Are you a good? Oh, wait, actually, do you have
You
good
can do it. You can do
attention
it.
to detail? Like, okay, are you good or bad at it? I'm not saying like it has to be black and white, because fair enough, it depends on the situation. We're not saying that you're definitely good at it or definitely bad at it. It's more on, in which situations are you good and bad. I don't know, like let's go to my neighbor, Chase.
Oh, me. Sorry, I didn't know what you meant by neighbor. Um, I think in terms of attention to detail, you're right. It's dependent on the situation. I think people have like a general, a good, like kind of attention to detail, but then it's like what aspects do they apply it in? So for me, I think I'm really good at attention to detail in social settings. So like, I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm an introvert. Um, I don't like going like outside and hanging out with people unless I'm like mentally prepared. Uh, Eric is smiling at me because the first time they invited me, I said no, and then the second time I only
Yeah,
went because I felt bad.
yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I think socially I have good attention to detail. For example, if I'm with like people, I'm really good at picking up like body language or understanding and seeing how people feel, even if like they don't say anything. So for example, like someone can be pretending to like have fun or pretending to be happy, but like I can really easily tell that like something's bugging them. And although I'm like quite introverted, I like to take care of like the people I care about. So if that usually happens, I kind of like take them to the side and be like, "Oh, hey, you okay?" Like if I can tell like they're not comfortable, I try to like ease how they're feeling, if that makes sense. But then if, for example, like you mentioned, like if you're tired, I think I really struggle with it because sometimes I'm so tired, like I just miss the little things.
Love
So for
that.
me, my job depends on it, right? But I'm also a person who's walked out of the house wearing two different kinds of shoes. So, and like literally went a whole day not even realizing it until my mom pointed it out to me at the end of the day. She was like, "Are you wearing two different kinds of shoes right now?" I'm like, "Huh, okay." So yeah, I guess it just depends. I feel like for me it depends on like what you can tolerate or stuff maybe that like is valuable to you. I guess because in that moment the way that I can kind of reason it out in my head is that maybe I was just so tired or I didn't it didn't bother me. So I feel like there was no reason for me to pay attention to it. But whereas if it's something else that is valuable to me or something that, like what Chase said, if I'm trying to gauge how my friends are doing or my family's doing, then I'll actively like seek that out. Like, oh, are they doing okay? But mine kind of borders like overthinking sometimes. But that's a whole other
I
that's a
mean,
separate thing.
was it like the shoes look similar or was it just completely different? Like,
I mean, it wasn't like a slipper and a tennis shoe, but it was two different kinds of slippers, and I just
okay.
had I yeah, I don't know. It's true that you kind of get different ranges, different levels, just depending. Because I'm a person who I'm not. I don't want to dress like a slob, right? But I'm more for comfort. I'm more on the place for comfort. So as long as I'm comfortable, that's what I usually go to, and I'm just casually, going out and maybe going to the mall, and yeah, I guess that's what happens. That's what
I
happens.
I think what we're all sort of describing is um, the word that popped into my mind was priorities. How well we prioritize and value on that scale of priority of how much we prioritize that thing that we are working on, right? For me, when I'm doing design work, my I would do great on like the model side, but then on like the note side, my boss will say like, "Oh, you missed a period here, you missed a dash here, you misspelled some common word or something," and I'm like, "I'm usually good at this. How did I miss this?" Right? And then it tends to happen, and we're only human, but yeah, priorities. How well how much we value it in our priorities.
Good
Yeah.
insight.
Or sometimes you can't English.
English is my native language, and I'm also bad at English.
So, we've been talking about like, I guess, prioritizing in a way when it comes to us being good or bad to give it like in giving attention to detail. But talking about, details, what details are easy for us to notice or like hard to notice? Because I think when it comes to noticing details, for me, it's easy personally when I'm not involved in the actual like, for example, if it's a situation, I am more objective and more, like you can see every detail from outside. But when I'm involved in something, it's hard for me to notice all the different details, especially because I'm involved in it. I just think about my point of view as well, if that makes sense. And I guess this is like an example, but okay, let's hear out from Tony, for example. Like you can give another example. It doesn't have to be a situation, maybe like a particular thing or something.
It's kind of like my, I want to compare it to my hearing, because sometimes my hearing or my memory is even selective, right? And it kind of goes back to what Lionel was saying about priorities, how most of the details that I typically catch are so random that to someone else, you, it may seem like it doesn't have to do with anything, but in my mind it's attached to something sentimental, to maybe it's someone else. Like let's say, if like when I look at my friends posts on social media, and I notice, I kind of pick up on the things that they like doing. I'm just like, oh, like that's a detail that I'll pick up about them. They might not even be intentionally doing it to show that they like that thing. I'm like, oh, so and so likes this color. They really like this color, and I'll just pick up on that just because the frequency of it, I think over time, and then if it's attached to something, like I said, it's more of a senti thing. You're like, oh yeah, so and so likes that. That's why I pay attention to it, if that makes sense. Not for everything, of course, but that's one of the things that I most readily, I think, remember, is if it's attached to people that I care about. Now, things that are hard to notice, um, I think a lot of it is just natural things that are happening in my environment. Sometimes, like people will tell me, like, "Oh, did you see that?" I'm like, "What?" No, I was in the zone. I was focused on something else. So I don't have good people.
All right. So Tony, you were a bit buffering, so we'll come back to you. This is how you know. Okay. What about you, Lionel?
Um, so I think Chase sort of mentioned it earlier, which now that I think of it, I completely blanked on it because I was listening to what Tony was saying and something else entered in my mind. Not that I wasn't prioritizing what you were saying. I mean, we all make pretty good points. With what Tony was saying is like, oh, we kind of, it becomes like not natural, but we like with this whole selective listening or remembering, like if they say like, oh, did you notice that things happening? Like, no, it just we got so desensitized. That's the word I was thinking of for Tony. Like we got so desensitized to like the little things that usually happens that we sort of just like, oh yeah, that's a normal thing. But for details that's easy for me to notice, um, I would probably go with like body language. There was like a point in time where I got really into reading body language. Um, and it's a lot easier, of course, like when you're in person. Um, and something that I don't know, maybe we can all sort of relate to is when someone changes the way that they text.
Yep, I was gonna say that. But then at the same time, it's hard to notice too sometimes because when it comes to messages, you can't really say that they're saying it this way because you're just like imagining or like hearing their voices in your head. But that's why. But one of the things is, I agree. Sorry for cutting you off, but yeah.
No, no, it's completely
It's just
fine.
no, it's just that, like when it comes to, for example, I was gonna say because you were talking about like those type of details, it's when someone talks to you as well. Because you can tell that what Chases has mentioned, someone can be like can portray how they like how happy they are, but in reality there is something like bugging them, right? So even like when they talk to you, um it's an easy spot for me because depending on the person, that like how much you know the person, right? Because of course if you just met the person and like you can't really tell sometimes, but what's easy for me is when it's like familiar for me, like personally. So, and what's hard to notice is sometimes when um when it's new to you, Like if anything is new to you, you try you try to do both things. So pay attention to everything, but at the same time pay attention on what's going on overall, which doesn't really help because it's like trying to multitask two things that are related to each other but completely opposite.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to find with something new, you're trying to find what's the baseline, but also you're trying to like compare it to what you know of like past experiences to bring into it to try to find that baseline of communication of how they talk and how they even like what we mentioned before how they text.
Yeah, messages are just it's not my thing. Chase
And
is like,
one of the hard things to portray through text messaging is sarcasm. I've gotten that a couple times.
oh
Sarcasm.
wow,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can completely agree with that because I think my humor is like 90% sarcasm. So when Erica ever messages me and I say something sarcastic, she just gets like she either gets really mad or she's just confused like every single time.
Like, huh? What do you mean? What?
Yeah.
Mad? I'm sometimes annoyed. Okay. But like I love this topic because we're like we can relate to everything that we've been sharing, and so far I'm learning a lot of things about you guys. But anyways,
He's paying attention to the details.
I am paying attention to the details. We've been talking about details in general, like, and also like based on our experiences, like different parts of our lives, right? But when it comes to achieving success, for example, how does paying attention to details help? I want to say something, but I'll say it later because I want Tony to actually tell me about this. Or maybe, oh, okay, her internet is still okay ish. Okay, so I'll start. When it comes to achieving success, like how people say you reach success not because you go random, but because you plan things, right? And you think about like each step, or if you're not like aware of all the steps that you're gonna take, it's more on you go like step by step, but then you're putting effort and attention to it. Like you think about the details and plan. But if you don't, then they say if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. You know what I mean? So it's something that you can think about and say, yeah, I mean, I can I can relate to that. It can be partially true unless like you can tell me something different about it. So how does like being prepared affect you in like achieving success? We are young enough to actually talk about what our goals are actually. Okay, Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um I think see it depends because are you how specific are you getting to the details? Because I'm the type of person where I like having a plan, but if you focus too much on the details, you kind of get tunnel visioned on what you're working on that you completely forget the whole point of it, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're moving towards a goal, you might focus so much on one specific task that you don't necessarily forget about the other tasks, but you kind of you you put less effort into those because of how much you're focusing on something. And then especially I think there's a lot of like metaphors like when you're like going for a goal, right? It's like climbing a staircase. You keep climbing and you look up and it's like you can't even see the end. But then if you like look at the details, it feels like it's endless, right? But then if you look at the whole picture and kind of look back from like where you started and where you are now, you realize that you've actually made so much progress. You just couldn't notice it because you're so kind of engrossed in the detail of how to get to where you're going. So I think it is good, but it's like how are you utilizing the attention to detail? Are you using it in the right way or are you using it for the right things?
Okay, because you're putting us in a situation that's like hypothetical, but at the same time, we might have experienced that, right? So what happens when we ignore details that matter? Can you share, Trace, an experience where paying attention to the details really mattered?
Um, I think there's times where, see, I tend to be quite good at it, but there is times where I'm a little bit dense and I don't notice things. So sometimes, like, someone I care about wasn't okay, and because I know them quite well and I can pick up on their body language generally, I presume they are okay because they're showing it, and then they do the normal like tells of them actually being okay. But then there's one small detail I miss, that they might have said something slightly different to the normal way they say it, or they like their body language reacts slightly differently to how they would. And because maybe I'm like so engrossed in spending the time with them or in whatever activity we're doing, I miss that detail that I could have like checked up on them, because I know I've had friends before that I was quite close to, and because I got engrossed in just what we were doing and just having fun, I missed the like they don't usually show how they feel. So that one detail that I missed, I found out I think months later that they were going through quite a rough time, and they just didn't feel comfortable opening up about it.
Thanks for sharing that. Totally relate. But I don't know if Tony's back, but let's go to Lionel. Like, Lionel, can you think of like someone who has great attention to detail? And from
Um,
there, we can talk about it.
Aside from you, Erica,
See, that's what I mean. Okay. No, because Tony and Chase earlier were like, you? I was like, I was thinking of myself. But okay, go Lionel.
um, as someone who has great attention to detail, um, I guess something that we can all sort of relate to is our best friend, right? They are the sort of the next person, one of the next persons in line to be the ones who really know us, whether they be whether they're actually, the friend, or even, our relatives, our parents, our siblings. They can also be our best friends. Someone who, what Chase mentioned before, was someone who we spend time with, especially physically in person, because what they can see that we don't, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Erica, was they have an outside perspective of how we are, how our body language, of how we speak, of how we carry ourselves, because sometimes we ourselves don't even notice that we're giving out those signs of, yeah, we're happy, or yeah, we're not okay, kind of body language. um, and what really makes them effective at seeing those is the more that we hang out with people. um, and I would say, yeah, for me it would be my best friend who um, has been with me for quite a long time, so they know.
And how does it make them effective in what they do? Like for example, with your best friend, how would you say that they're great in giving attention to detail?
I can tell of one experience where him and I, we were hanging out one time, and I was really stressed. And after like a few days, he reaches out to me like, "Hey, let's go do this." And you know, because he said that he wanted to go see, um, or he wanted to go do this thing, and I'm like, okay, sure. But at that time, I was like super stressed with school, with future prospects of work, because this was back when I was in my uni days, um, and really just having that. He's a nurse now, and but really having just that moment of, hey, let's go do this thing, without directly telling me like, oh, you're too stressed. It really helps me come to the realization that, oh, I need this, there's something that I need to change in my life, or at least at that moment, is to to better take care of my mental and physical well-being. And he's a nurse right now, and I'm really proud of him for that. Really goes into that nurturing role. How about you,
Oh,
Chase? Do you
I
have
mean,
someone in your life that
wait a
has
second. Before Chase, I want to see if Tony's back.
I'm here. It's just I don't know if I'm delayed or it's just it's not the best right now. But we're talking about which question are you asking me, Erica?
Or like we're talking about, like what happens when we ignore details that matter. And can you think of someone who has great attention to detail, and how does it make them effective in what they do?
A lot of people that I've worked with that have great attention to detail. Erica, a lot of them are, you know, co-ops that became friends, even people that oversee us and that we would consider as leaders, right? And what I never really gave thought into on different aspects of whether it be projects or whether it be even just consider someone receives something. I learned so much from the way that they ask questions, the way that they kind of are able to turn around um, a situation to get stuff from all sides, and being able to see like, oh, did we consider this? Did we consider that someone might take it this way? Did we consider all different aspects, especially when you're trying to handle, like when I think about you know I'm just going to say their names. I'm thinking of Darlene and Katia, because their attention to detail in so many different things just opened my like my eyes to a world of things that you wouldn't think about unless you had good attention to detail. And it just shows um, the kind of quality that they put into their work, of things that they want to do. And it makes them effective because they're able to really cover everything, to cover all their bases. And um, we think about, I don't remember who mentioned it earlier, if it was Lionel or if it was Chase, where you recognize that if you don't you know uh, pay attention to all the things that you need to, sometimes you might be so focused in on something and then you forget all those other things. But I've never seen them be like that. They always have some kind of tracking, like whether it's through lists or whether it's through like spreadsheets or whatever it is. They're really good at what they do in terms of being able to be effective and getting done what needs to get done. And when you're in a tough environment, especially like when it's time crunches, when it's that kind of resources, being able to have detail is really important. Um, you know, after is the quality. Like they're going after the quality of what they're trying to do, and shows. I think also when people have great attention to detail, it shows the kind of effort, because I feel like it takes a lot of work to kind of put in times more than we think. That was my example. So I was trying not to name drop, but yeah, I just dropped their names.
Not
Also, I
fine.
don't know how
I
to
was
their names
actually
right now.
No worries. I was actually thinking about Kathleen as well, but I was thinking of someone who I consider like a second parent too. And the thing is that what they all have in common is, as much as like they're effective in, um, they're effective in leading us. You said leader, like that lead us, right? So I think that's what makes it effective as well. It's because of what, like the role that they portray, which is they're the ones leading us, they're the leaders, right? And this makes like someone lead better, like having a great attention to detail, because as you've mentioned, not only they see the little things, but they also see the bigger picture. And for them to have that visualized and having like everything tracked in whatever they do, I think like besides having great attention to detail, what really has drawn me to think about how this makes them someone who lead better is that how you were saying that, Tony, like the way you were explaining it, you're inspired, and you like how you were saying it, it felt like you want to do the same. And that's what makes them like lead better, because they because if it was someone that would like complain about it, then you'd be like, I don't think like that's someone who's leading better because someone's like complaining. But the way you're saying it, it's more on they actually not only get the like things done by checking all the details, or like checking all the boxes, right, but also the way um they guide and help the ones that are involved in the task or like in the situation, right? And I think that's very important because um that's how, for example, you personally want to try to get better at paying attention to details, because you're more like, the more you hang out with these type of people, the more you pick it up, and you see how you can try and like follow their footsteps, right? So besides that, like that's personally like how I see it. I i personally learned that I acquired different skills not because I picked them up like like by myself. It's because I surround myself with people that have those skills. So, what would you try to get better at paying attention to details, for example, Chase?
Um, I think the reason why I like paying attention to detail in like social environments is because someone like did that for me. Because like I mentioned, I'm quite introverted, so I don't actively like go around talking about myself or like talking about my feelings or how I feel. Like I don't really like unless you ask, you're probably not gonna know. Um, and there was this person that I've known for a while now, and they've taught me a lot about just this little things. And like for me, when they notice think something about me, or like for example, I said one time that, like you mentioned, Erica, like when you hear someone say, oh, they like the color blue or something, or this person was really good at it. If someone said like they had a bad day, or if they said, oh, they injured their like foot or their arm or something, they were like the next time they would see them, they would bring them something like a gift to like help them out. So they'd bring them like an ankle support or like a brace. And it's like it's not anything big, but it's such a it's a little detail that they just heard that one time and it was never mentioned again. But they focused on it and picked up on it, that it makes such a difference to that person. And then especially if you're the person on the receiving end as well, it's like knowing that you're heard, and knowing that even if like you just brushed over it, someone cared enough to actively like try and help you out. It gives you quite a warm feeling. And I think ever since like I saw that person treat me like that and other people like that, I've always kind of strived to be like that. I know I still miss it sometimes, but if someone ever mentions like a little detail to me, I try to remember about that person, just so I can, like, if in the future, um if they're having any problems, or if it's something like they love doing a certain activity and they're quite stressed, then I know like that's something that's an option that I could invite them to, because I know like they'll enjoy it. I know, Lionel, you mentioned that you like paying attention to people too. So any opinions on that?
Yeah, really quick, going back to what Erica was talking about, um, of how it makes them sort of lead, how it helps them lead better. a lot of it stems from experience, whether directly or indirectly. And that's what sort of helps someone become a great leader is they have the experience, whether it was taught to them or whether they experienced it firsthand. Um, for Sorry, what was the question again?
Uh, because you're very like aware of the people around you, like you mentioned with your best friend as well, and you enjoy like looking at body language. Do you sort of like have anyone, or you've do you how important is it like paying attention to the little things about people? What's your like view of it?
Yeah, what would you try to get better? Like what would you do to be better at it?
Well, one of the main things when observing body language is being observant, right? That's one of the first things, especially if you do it for someone like when you mentioned Chase, is it helps them be seen and also be heard, right? Whether it's verbal or nonverbal cues. Um, and it's always important. One thing that I read recently was that with communication, we have no choice not to communicate because even a non answer or even no answer is still an answer. And so picking up on all of these things, like I'll admit sometimes it gets a little um not wearing or wearing that whatever that word is. Um but as we sort of make it part of our skill set, as part of our tools that we carry with ourselves daily, it not only helps us navigate the world around us, but also helps everyone else sort of navigate with us. Does that make sense? Like we can sort of see, oh, someone's struggling, but they're not saying anything. And that's where we can sort of, do what one of my best friends did was, hey, do you want to go grab a bite to eat? Or do you want to go check out this thing that I like that coincidentally, you also like, right? Um, as for getting better at it, it's like the more interactions you have with people, whether it be whether we be introverted or extroverted, social cues is something that picking up on social cues are is something that I personally think is pretty important um, because like I said, we have no choice not to communicate because even no answer is still an answer.
And also because no man is an island. We're always surrounded by people. And that's why, Chase. I'm just kidding. I'm not saying he's like the type of person who would not talk to people.
No, it's because I think in like the last year, the since I moved like farther away from you guys, I've like barely spoken to you guys or messaged. It's not because like I don't feel close to you guys or anything. It's just I think I'm the type of person that prefers like in-person conversation
Well,
and
that's
like
me too.
connection. Yeah,
That's me too. But
but
it's not
I'm
making
terrible at
effort.
reaching out. Like I'm
You
really
in touch with everybody, okay? No, I'm just
see,
kidding.
that's a detail that you've learned about me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Which, I think you're improving, so you're getting better at it. But we've been talking about details and well, fair enough. As much as we've been talking about like the different experiences and how um we try and strive to get better at it, right? This is like one of the elements that personally I think is an element that would help us in planning and reaching our goals, or like achieving success. Well, success is personal, so whatever success you're like referring to, but at the same time, if we also like keep reflecting on it, what aspects of life could benefit from being being attentive, or in paying attention to details, like why is it positive for us from now on to get better at it. Is that even English? Yes, it is.
That's English, Erica. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
to get on this one real quick, just because this is something that I've been working on personally. I've I've told this to some of my friends, not everyone, but something that I've been struggling with is the attitude of gratitude, where you've heard that a lot, like practicing gratitude in general. And what I've realized, though, in my experience, is that the better we are at paying attention to things, the easier it is for us to be grateful also for things, because we don't there are a lot of things that I feel like I've taken for granted if I didn't think about it. Like when I can show up in a place and there's toilet paper there. Like you may not always think about that all the time, but that's not something that's easily available everywhere in the world, right? Like there's so many things that, not to overload your brain, of course, right? But to just kind of get in that mindset of noticing details like that, even when it comes to the people in our life. I feel like one thing that I've also struggled with is expectations. But you don't realize the small and simple, well, I won't call it small. I'll say the simple ways that people will show up for you. And when you pay attention to that and you realize, like, yeah, they may not be doing that one thing, but they've done all these other simple things for you too. So that's something that I've been kind of working with, is specifically trying to pay attention to things that I'm grateful for, to those details that maybe I might have forgotten or that I have overlooked, and to kind of help me find more joy out of the everyday life. So because life gets hard, right, and we have those tough moments, but the more that I kind of, I don't want to say force, but the more that I kind of get myself to have that focus on those things, the more it helps me out. And it's been working so far. It's not perfect, of course, but we're trying. We're trying. So yeah.
We're speechless. No, I can relate to that actually, because when you mention about some like focusing on how um someone has done something for you, right? Um Sometimes, being human, you think about things that they didn't do, right? And that's why you like end up either like disappointed or sad or sometimes, like annoyed. But then if you focus on like always focus on the bright side, and if you think about it, there's literally like mm, when it comes to failures, for example, or something that you think it's bad, if you really think about it, it's not really a bad thing, or it's not really like a failure for you, because somehow you're being redirected where you're supposed to be, right? And that's why you're like, no, it's not a bad thing, it's such a blessing, because every time you see that something doesn't work out for you, then that means you're closer to the thing that is meant for you. You know what I mean? And thinking about, like uh people, or like what you've literally said, Tony, which is focusing on how to be thankful and grateful. It's literally the little things that count in this life, because if you think about it, we grow up thinking about big things, like, okay, I'm gonna be doing these huge or big things in life. But then if you've ever like had a heart to heart talk with elderly people, or someone who's like, who you consider like as a mentor or you look up to, right? They'd be telling you that it's the simple things in life that really like bring you joy. And I think those are the details that we should pay more attention to, because if you think about it, when we're old, and we're not old now, but okay, let's not make it like super serious, but you know what I mean. And the ones that are after, like that come after us, that look up to us, right? They won't remember they won't remember the big things that you've done, that you've achieved. They will remember the little things that you've done for them, or like how you treated them and stuff. So it's also that it's like you're gonna leave like you're gonna it's you're affecting people around you in a way where you leave like an imprint on them about you, and it's a little bit of like a little legacy of yourself. And I think this kind of effort that you make in, like Tony, in being very thankful and grateful for everything, it's really like a great, like, it's such a good practice, because nowadays things are so fast, like go fast, everything, like, technology is like developing. Yes, we get it. It feels like everything is such an in a like fast pace that you can't really appreciate the things that surround you. And yeah, I definitely agree, and I will do it anyway. Like, if you not a sad story, but if you grow up not having much in life, you will appreciate everything that you have as much as you strive to have more things in life, right? And I'm not saying being greedy and stuff. It's more on, you try to be successful, but at the same time, because you've experienced having nothing, every single thing that you have in life, you're really gonna end up like appreciating and, like, cherish. And I think, me personally, that's what I do. you know Practice, like, this is a practice that I've done when I learned to be an adult. And and I don't know, like, we all get to that stage in different ages, but me personally, I had to learn that like a little bit earlier, as the oldest amongst my siblings. And I guess, it's helpful because my siblings got it from me in a way where, I mean, life is hard, but at the same time, we're still happy. I mean, you guys know us. We're very loud and hyper, and we just like um like laugh a lot as well. Sorry, I just remember Aaron's laughter. But yeah, sorry for babbling a lot. It's more on, I was really into this conversation. I really love this topic. And moving forward with our topic discussion, what about like you, Lionel and Chase? Why is that paying attention to detail like a good practice moving forward?
I think I think like what Tony said and what you said, Erica, it I think being mindful of the little things is what makes you happy. Because I think it was mentioned already, people are so focused on their goals and on the big things that they don't realize sometimes what they have in front of them. And even if like they don't have much, like you mentioned, it's being able to appreciate the little things that you do have. I think whether it's everything you need or not, it keeps you satisfied knowing that you've got that like around you. And then like you mentioned as well with like speaking to um people who've like lived a lot longer than us, for example, they tend to say that it's the small things that matter. And I really agree with that and resonate with that, just because, especially with like relationships, whether friendship or romantic, it's the small gestures that you remember. It's not like, oh, one of your birthdays, they made like a grand gesture and they like helped, like it was really big and they prepared for it. I think you remember the small stuff, like when you were down, they were there for you. When you needed like someone, they're there for you. When you woke up and you really needed a coffee, they already had one prepared. Like I think it's the small but sweet things that really matter.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in addition to all that, um, seeing just the world around us, not the whole hustle and bustle and, you know, gotta get on that grind kind of thing, but more on like just the calming things around us. You know, like the squirrels playing with each other. I mentioned this because at work they have we have a couple of squirrels that just run around, and some of the employees they have like a little feeder for them. Like, oh, that's nice. Like, it's the little things that they do that sort of like makes every day like more enjoyable, right? It could be like your coworkers feeding the natural wildlife around us, and like, you know, just appreciating the beauty of every day. Um, like paying attention to all of the details that sort of bog us down with like work, school, life, stress is just, we should also try to pay attention to the things that don't give us stress, right? That's or at least give us the good type of stress. Um, and you know, it's something that we need. I feel that we should pay attention to more day by day, right? Um, Especially with like seeing getting like secondhand happiness from seeing a friend happy is also one thing that I like to see, because right, if because for me, maybe even you, Chase, can even relate to this, that like if you see someone that's not happy, it's suddenly like, oh wait, what's going on, what's happening, right? You sort of like hone in, so in that way you try to make sure that, you know, everyone's sort of having a net positive time,
Mhm.
at least.
I love that. I got a bit distracted. Pardon me, but you know, we have realized that from one simple question, or not really question, but you know, from one simple like topic, which is like it's in the details, right? We've talked about a lot of things today, and I really love it because from one simple sentence we came to, you know, share these different experiences and point of view about paying attention to details, which really matters when it comes to, you know, essential, like it's essential to quality work, whether it be for our jobs or different things that have been assigned to us, or like situations, right? But also I think like recapping everything that we've been talking about, paying attention really helps us covering our bases. And, you know, it helps us not only check the different details in everything that we do, but somehow it broadens our perspective, because you get to see the little things and also the bigger picture. But of course, I think when you mentioned stress, Lionel, what I was thinking was overthinking, which could lead, you know, to stress. But of course, like when it comes to paying attention, we don't use like we don't really link it to being over, like to being an overthinker, right? Because when it comes to paying attention to every detail, what I think Chase has mentioned earlier was it could be good or bad, right? And I think overthinking is something that might come from the, I guess, bad side of like going into like proper like details, but you know, having just like this, I love like neutral observation that leads to whatever information we accumulate and have, if used well, that will help us, you know, strive, or whilst we strive to reach our goals, it will help us achieve that success that we're aiming for. And um, above all is when it comes to, you know, like achieving that success, we've said that paying attention to details is an element, it's not all, right? Especially because when it comes to achieving that goal that you've set for yourself, it's more on also planning, right? So preparedness is such a like important and essential key as, you know, as Christians. And This shows how if we're prepared for something, or like if we prepare for something, that shows that we truly like we're truly making an effort. We show how much we care, and also reflects our respect and seriousness towards what we're doing or we're trying to achieve. And that's very important, I think. Right, Tony?
I think of it like, when we talk about the importance of being a good listener, I think of paying attention to details to be the equivalent of that. Like, you can listen and you can take the information like how you will. You can attach other meaning to it, which you shouldn't, which I think is where the overthinking part comes from. But paying attention to detail, it can be something that's very neutral. It will become good depending on how you use it. So, I hope this topic was helpful. It's a
I
good
know.
reminder for me. It's a good reminder for me to think about the details in a good way, in different aspects of our life.
I really do love this topic. And lastly, I just really want to highlight one of the things that we've mentioned, which is like how this led led us in the conversation of someone who leads us better. And with this, we would like to also greet Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, the Executive Minister of the Church of Christ, a happy 15th anniversary for your dynamic leadership. And it's really inspiring. So thank you so much for everything you do, po. And thank you as well to my co panelists today for joining me in today's conversation, and of course for sharing your experiences and thoughts too. I can't get over this conversation. I really like it. So don't forget to share it with your friends if ever it can help. You can relate to a bunch of things that we've shared. And to all of our listeners and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. And we really do hope that this has been a conversation that mattered to you. So please take the time to comment and let us know a conversation you want to hear that matters to you. And again, thank you so much. Until next time, here on INC Radio Chatline. Bye.